You see the title, so you know what's going on. Day number two, and yet another story about what I think is probably one of the best comic book writers of this time, especially for Marvel, and that is Jonathan Hickman. When I saw this story, read, what was going on, what was Shackman's inspiration for, or his main inspiration for his Fantastic Four First Steps movie, I thought to myself, this might turn out to be a very well done movie. Now, I don't know. I don't want to jump the gun and say, oh, this is going to be great now. I don't know that to be true, but there is cause for excitement. And I say this all the time. I know what we've gotten from Marvel. I know we haven't necessarily gotten the things that we want. The movies haven't quite gone how we wanted them to go, but every company has ups and downs. No creator is going to be on top forever, right? In the music industry, you see artists rise and fall, actors and actresses rise and fall. There's like a prominent actress of a time, and there might be somebody that is an outlier, outstanding, and then that person will go away. Somebody else will take the helm. And you see the same thing. I always bring up, because I think this is a good example, I always like to bring up Apple and Microsoft, right? Microsoft dominated the market completely. And I'm not saying they still don't dominate for the most part the market as far as computers that are in houses, like what's being used the most. But Apple has a stronghold now. There was a time where IBM was a big player. Not so much anymore. Mac has its ebbs and flows. They're on top, I think, in the early or the late 90s, early 2000s with their creation of the iMac, the iPod, the iPhone, and they were just like the it company. And they're still doing some innovative things, but there's other companies that are now taking up the space. So these things happen. It's like an accordion, right? Expand and contract, expand and contract. So I think both Marvel and DC are in a moment of contraction. Not necessarily where they were at one point creatively, and they're trying to find their footing, trying to figure out what to do, which direction to go. But I think there are things happening that is them moving in the right direction. And I think this is one of those things. So let's get to this story from Bounding into Comics. Fantastic Four First Steps director cites Jonathan Hickman's run as major inspiration, his deep insight into the specific family dynamics of the four affected me the most. This is good to see because Jonathan Hickman is one of those writers that has the ability to captivate an audience and to write stories in such a way that I think he grabs audiences across the board. This is my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe they're one of my subscribers. Maybe you don't like Hickman. I'd like to hear from you and find out why you don't like Hickman. I'm sure there's somebody out there that doesn't like him, but I think he's one of those people that is pretty much celebrated across the board. I think everybody would agree. Well, let's say most people would agree that, this dude writes some incredible stories. I always bring up Ultimate Spider-Man. That's arguably right now, that's probably of the past, what I want to say, 4 or 5 years. That's arguably my favorite comic book. I think that's safe to say. I think it is for right now. I like Absolute Batman as well. Did I say Absolute Spider-Man? I meant Ultimate Spider-Man if I said Absolute Spider. I always get that one and Absolute Batman mixed up when I say the names. I like Absolute Batman as well, but I like Ultimate Spider-Man a lot more. According to director Matt Shackman, while Fantastic Four First Steps draws heavy influence from the entirety of the team's 60-plus year comic book history, perhaps none of their print adventures played as big a part in shaping the upcoming MCU entry's identity than those penned by veteran Marvel Comics writer Jonathan Hickman. I think there needs to be an apprenticeship for comic book writers where Marvel pairs new writers. Let's say a writer is 2, 3 years in the game, pair them with somebody like a Jonathan Hickman, right? If Chris Claremont would be willing to do it, pay him. Get these dudes to sit with somebody like Chris Claremont. Get with these veteran writers. See what they like. See how they craft stories. What makes them go one direction instead of the next? What do they start with first? How do they pull in an audience? I think those are all things, like the intangible things that you can't necessarily learn from a person, but if you get around a person, you can glean some from this stuff and probably, figure some things out that you wouldn't have figured out otherwise. Kicking off in 2009, Hickman's 4 year run on Marvel's First Family not only saw the current author of Ultimate Spider Man Volume 3 breathe new life into the team's stories, but also make several notable change-ups to their not just their own status quo. I think there is a misprint there. Maybe I'm just reading that wrong. But that of the entire 616 universe. From Johnny's self-sacrificing death at the hands of the Negative Zone hoarders to the concept of the multiverse incursions that served as the catalyst for the events of 2015 Secret Wars and is currently being readapted for use in MCU itself, to the establishment of the Future Foundation, to Spider-Man's long-awaited signing as an official member of the team. Hickman's time left an inarguable mark on the team's canon. Now, I'd have to say I agree. He did, and he just does this. He's one of those people that has a knack for doing things with stories that you just would not expect. They have twists and turns and going directions that you just did not see coming. And I mean, that's the obvious, right? Most authors who know what they're doing, that's what they do. But you do see a lack of that from some new writers. I'm not going to blast every new writer, but some new writers don't really give you that mysterious edge of a good story, if you know what I mean. Let's see, where are we at? And per Shackman himself, it was this specific run that played one of, if not the biggest parts in helping him craft his silver screen take on the Fantastic Four, and I love to see that. As recalled by the director in his intro for the newly printed Marvel Premiere Collection release of the Fantastic Four, Solving Everything, itself is solving everything itself, collecting the first 19 issues of Hickman's time at the helm of the book in preparation for Marvel Studios' The Fantastic Four First Step. I delved into the 60 plus years of comics history. Marvel's First Family has been continuously cared for by the best and brightest the company had to offer. None shone so bright as Jonathan Hickman. The humor and heart I loved as a kid, it's there and better than ever. The messy family dynamics made even more interesting as Val and Franklin take center stage. And the sense of optimism and wonder, I don't think Fantastic Four have been quite as fantastic as they are in the pages of this book. And he has a way, Jonathan Hickman does have a way of captivating you in that fashion. And I noticed this in the different runs I've read from him. Like, if you were to blindfold me when I opened a book, and if Jonathan Hickman wrote the book, I would like to believe that I could probably pick out, yeah, I think this was written by Hickman. There's just something he does where the characters, no matter how epic and out of reach, feel grounded, if that makes sense. Like, the stories don't feel so epic that they're out of reach. They feel attainable. I know that might not make sense to you, but that's how it feels in my head when I read one of his stories. I'll post a link to this article in the description of the video so you can go check it out and read it for yourself. But this is, like I said, yet another Hickman story, and I think I think this this trust in his storytelling ability and using that as inspiration, I think that's a good sign. Again, not going to be naive. I'm not going to tell you, oh, this movie is going to be great. That's it. This settles it. I don't know. I don't know if Fantastic Four First Steps is going to be great or if it's going to be bad. I'm not going to make any predictions. I will say things like this give me a glimmer of hope. Things like this, they like in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, if you were reading this and this is where you pulled your inspiration, I'm willing to believe you actually know what you're doing and what you've crafted is actually something that we're all going to want to see. We will know. We will know in what, a month's time, whether this movie really hit the mark or whether it doesn't.